I in Lagos spoke to legal practitioner Liberus Oshoma, and according to him, the bill has some advantages. So let's take a look.
On the face value, you will say, it's a good bill. Every, organizations that perform quasi-governmental functions, there's need for government to at least have an eye on the activities, most especially with insecurity in the land, and government that also wants to fight corruption. There's need for you to know what's happening to organizations that are performing some of our functions, especially when these organizations receive funds from foreign donors. But then also in the same vein, there's need for you to also be transparent in trying to manage the affairs of these people that performs quasi-governmental functions. Government had said, look, we will take the case of the IDP, how people have fraudulently used, those areas to enrich themselves. But also, in coming up with this bill, government also needs to come up with a working document that will spell out, the areas, the gray areas, and what necessitated this move. And then also, you find out the NGOs also that are complaining. I also have a problem with their complaint. There's need to aggregate the specific areas where you have problems, and not just generalize the entire bill as if, oh, the bill should be condemned completely. No. I agree with some areas of the bill, but I completely disagree with, other areas.
What are some of the areas you agree with?
Yeah, like I said, there's need to regulate. Take, for example, the Corporate Affairs Commission. I think it is time we unbundle the Corporate Affairs Commission. And part of the unbundling is this idea of having to regulate a section that would regulate the activities of non-governmental organizations like, charitable organizations, excluding churches, mosques, and, cultural bodies. For that, I'm in support. But also, the idea, just in line with Corporate Affairs Commission, Corporate Affairs Commission, companies submit annual returns. So you don't ask them to bring proposal for their yearly activities. Allow the NGOs to submit annual reports, annual activities, funds donors, funds that they got from wherever, and how these funds were utilized. So it becomes easy. At the end of the way, you're going to send annual reports that might be verified. There's need for you also to be very transparent. That's, to that extent. And then some of the fears I have, you say you will, at every 2 years, you need to re-register approval. All of this, even with the current structure, we know how long it takes us to register companies, even NGOs, we know the procedures you have to go through. Not to now talk of re-registration every 2 years. How about, there are some companies that are set up on specific activities. Immediately after those activities are concluded, the companies, are wound up. But for a going concern, that will have to run back and forth to Abuja every 2 years for re-registration, this will be subject to abuses, knowing fully where the way government operates in Nigeria. And then also, you have situations where, this will be, apart from the abuses, I gave an example. How well has government been able to run the affairs of government? To now say that you will also be very transparent in running the affairs of organizations that are performing quasi-governmental function. So there's a breach of trust between the people and those in government. And that's why the people running the NGOs are saying, look, you have not even run yours well. And then here you want to run our organization, a situation where even money that is budgeted for government to release such funds, to appropriate them, it becomes a problem. We hear of bribe for budget. So the NGOs are saying, donations we get from people, they can't go to you, and then we now begin to lobby you to release them to us. And so these are areas I think government should amend in the bill to accommodate filing of reports rather than also wanting to know, get the fund first and release them. The NGOs are so many, and so how many are you going to how long will it take you to be releasing funds piecemeal? And even if the funds come in torrents, how are you going to manage this? So that's why most times our problem is not lack of laws, but the implementation of the law. And I give you an example. Do you know, on this issue of breach of trust, the Charity Commission in England If you pay tithe, for example, because government spends so much in assisting charity commissions and NGO to carry out quasi-governmental functions, if you pay tithe to charity commission, for example, they give you a percentage in tax returns. That's a way government giving back to the charities. But here, government don't even give. They don't even assist you. And so, you now hear that the same government are telling you to where you go outsource for funds, and government tells you bring the fund to them first. And then they now tell you how to appropriate them. You know, if government were transparent, it would be that easy. You know, so these are some of the things that are lacking.
Now, there's this section that talks about the fact that the regulation can be done, it emerges the powers of the executive and the judiciary, now leaving the judiciary only to regulate the fines that must be paid by the NGOs, defaulting NGOs, but cannot punish the NGOs.
You see, any bill that tends to remove the powers of the courts to adjudicate on defaults, that bill is dead on arrival, because at the end of the day, if you take for example, Section 188 of the Constitution, that tends to remove the powers to question impeachment proceedings of the legislature. The court heard that, look, there are procedures. If you do not comply with subsection 1 to subsection 9, you cannot invoke subsection 10. So it is the same thing with this bill. Let's not be in a hurry. The bill has been in a pipeline. There's need for a robust debate. Let's not be in a hurry to just leave punitive measures for the judiciary to handle alone. Also, the judiciary, during interpretation, because the law is what the court says it is, the court might come up to say, look, if there are procedures, if you refuse to comply with the procedures in registering, in granting approval, you cannot invoke those powers that your actions cannot be questioned. And so to even say you can't, these actions cannot be questioned also is another big problem, because the court will have, you know, a right to look, to peep into procedures for registration. For example, if I apply to be registered, and at the end of the day, for reasons best known to the commission, the registration is denied, I have a right to apply to court to compel the registration, the organization to register that company. And so you can't remove that power from the court. So these are some of the issues. Now that we have laid the issues of it does not include religion bodies to rest, you know, it is not something we should do in a hurry. It is something that we need to go around, just like a constitutional amendment. There's need to go around from zones to zones and take in objections and take in claims on the bill, and that will enhance it. Not a bill you pass today, and then the very next day, a lot of people are challenging it, and they are shredding it to pieces in court, and then you go back to amend when you would have amended at the beginning.
And coming up after the break, National Judicial Council investigates allegations against 15 judicial officers across the country.